Welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. I'm Deanna. It's great to see you. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. You made it. Are we there? Are we there already? It's crazy, isn't it? Time is going by so fast. It is Friday the 13th. Did you realize that? I did not realize that until the kids brought it up. And I always get that shiver when it's Friday the 13th. It's kind of magical. It's kind of spooky. Makes me think of the movie, of course, which I've never seen. Let me know if this light is too outrageous. I'm in my cozy place tonight, which is a bit lazy. I have so many things to tell you. Why can't I see the... Okay, hang on. Nope, it's not a problem. Hang on. Let me see what's going on with this piece of something. Okay, yep, I got it. Didn't say anything bad either. Okay, there we go. Cats Gallery, great to see you. Happy Friday. From, is it cold in Savannah? Oh man, you look really cold. I'm so sorry. It is mild here. It is quite mild. I mean, it's not, I think it's like in the 40s again. It's such a weird winter. This is, people are already saying the winter that wasn't a winter, stuff like that. And that also gives me the chills because that makes me real nervous. I feel like if there's meant to be a winter, it should probably be like right now in January. And it's okay if it's short, but just like some kind of a token, like some little souvenir, a little more snow or something, opportunity to go sledding with the kids, that kind of thing. Candace, great to see you. Candace, do I owe you a message? I owe you a message about the turquoise, don't I? As soon as tomorrow's over with the Alice Butler presentation that I'm giving, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Well, I'll talk about that now. I'll talk about that later. Tomorrow morning at 10 in another state. So I'm a bit wound up because I'm all set to go, and it is a great presentation. More on that in a second. Let me say my hellos first. Melanie, great to see you. Happy Friday. Cold and rainy Washington, having Prosecco. I love Prosecco, even more than champagne these days. I've got a beer that is, it's not to my taste. I'm telling you, I always think that I like, this is Berkshire Brewing because I was in the Berkshires last weekend. Do you see the little faces on this can? This is a very cute design. I have to admit, I'm not a connoisseur of anything, and definitely not beer. And I always think, well, I'm going to say I choose my beer based on how cute the can is. And for that reason, I usually buy IPAs, and they, for me, all taste like Budweiser. And there's nothing wrong with Budweiser, but these are like 5 times more expensive than Budweiser, and I am bound to be disappointed. I do not have the palate for it, or maybe I only like stouts. Stout is the only thing I never complain about. So that is what I have tonight. Not super exciting. I wish I had Prosecco. And what made me smile was when I was in the Berkshires last weekend at the Red Lion, at the Lion's Den downstairs, and I had this nice winter drink that had like Prosecco, grapefruit, like some kind of simple sugar, syrup, and I think vodka. And it was so nice. Maybe it had like berries, I think like a sage leaf and some little berries. It was so nice. Prosecco is such a shapeshifter, isn't it? You can put it in all kinds of things, and it is like, it's so sharp and bubbly, like a seltzer, but you know it's also doing something for you, which is a good feeling on a Friday night, isn't it? Mom, great to see you. I've been missing you so much. I'm so sorry. Everything has been chaotic, but it's about to taper off a little bit. I promise. Fire blazing in the fireplace. Oh, I'm so glad. Is it one of the logs? Is it one of like the logs from the store? Oh, I'm so glad. That sounds so cozy. And Linda B, happy Friday. Good evening. I read your mind today, didn't I? We were going to do a bingo game tonight, but I ended up not being able to because to do bingo, I needed to get the cards out yesterday. It was not going to be a gambling bingo. It was going to be a for fun bingo. And I will do that, I think, next week. But I ended up having to take my son Teddy to the doctor for a routine appointment. But as they always do, they told us no shots and everything. He's all up to date, quick appointment. We were there for 3 hours because they gave him 3 shots, and they had to keep taking his blood pressure, and his heart rate was insanely high. So they were worried. Sorry, Mom, to tell you in that way. He was fine, but we stayed forever because they worked him up so much. He's just a little guy, and he's autistic, and he's 11. But you know, just like when I went for the MRI, and they didn't tell me they planned to shoot me full of ink. I have a thing about not shots but IVs. You need to know these things. I mean, I just find it outrageous the way things work right now. The customer, I'm going to stop. The customer is never right anymore. Okay, I'm stopping because I'll never be able to stop if I keep going. Super frustrating. But for that reason, I lost 4 hours yesterday and I could not put the cards together. So we will do that again. And luckily, Atha came. So I thought, da 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 da. This is what we're going to do tonight. Look at the newest issue, and this is a fabulous issue of Atha. So we're going to look at that together tonight. Shannon, great to see you in Delaware. Great to see you. Happy Friday. Karen, happy Friday from Black Forest, Colorado. Great to see you. Priscilla, great to see you. Cheers and hello in Ohio. Linda H. in Massachusetts, happy Friday. Good to see you. Sonia, hello. Oh, uh-oh. Uh-oh. Don't tell me. Did you hear anything I said so far? My volume was way down. Okay. Amzi Collins, great to see you. Thanks for tuning in. You are heavily featured in this episode. I am so sorry about the volume. Um, yeah, I'm so sorry. Hopefully it's up now. I can see that my entire control panel reset itself. Thank you, Streamlabs. Thank you. Hopefully you heard some of that and I wasn't just miming, because I don't have my striped top on to do proper miming or those white gloves or the makeup or anything. I should have been pulling a rope for you, right? Good Lord. Lynn, good to see you. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to start. I keep saying I have to scroll down first to find out if there's any technical problems because I was having technical problems the other day as well. So sorry about that. Dave, great to see you. Judy, great to see you. I think I'm probably up. I'm so sorry it took me so long to get down there. Joy, good to see you in chilly Florida. It is chilly in Florida and Georgia. That is surprising. Um, okay, good, 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 good. Okay, good. Just checking to see that we are good now. Happy Friday, Kirsten. Great to see you. Okay, good. And Lynn, beautiful Tucson. Great to see you too. Great to see everybody. I'm so sorry about that. I hate it when I do that. I do it all the time. So let me show you something that I'm going to walk over there for. Get ready for leggings. Sorry about that. Um, and you know, I'm getting ready for this talk tomorrow in Rhode Island, the Alice Butler. And as I said before, since I have done shows on her, I continue to be in touch with the family. We continue to find new things and unearth new things. So this talk that I'm doing in Rhode Island tomorrow morning at 10:30, the Little Rhodey Thrummers. And if you're able to go, they kind of need a reservation or at least to be in touch in the morning. I'm guessing it's hopefully okay. I'm not sure because it's a set amount of chairs in the room where I'm doing it. And it is not an Atha guild, but it is a guild, the Little Rhodey Thrummers. They broke away from Atha, I think, years ago. And this is an Atha episode, so nothing against Atha, obviously, just stating the facts. But they are their own guild, and it is a Rhode Island guild, and they are lovely, lovely people. And I wanted to be sure that besides this PowerPoint presentation on Alice Butler and Vic Hugo, her son, that I had a bunch of patterns. So I'm bringing a ton of patterns. Jacob actually traced like 23, I think we've got so far. And they are all, and they're all in ribbon candy hooking too. But they are, this is that, oh, remember this one? I hope you can see that. Remember this one called Brownie and Movement? That's my favorite one. I'm not going to keep it. I'm going to make another copy because I license all these from the family. I'm still very close to the family. And that's the one that was on the cover of, it's way over there, I'm not going to get up again, on the cover of the Alice Butler book, Brownie and Movement is that weird geometric. And do you remember what Brownie and Movement is? And I know some of you are science people out there and you do remember. This is a very difficult thing to define, but a Brownian movement is, and I'll show you the pattern again, it is the random pattern that something makes. In this case, this is a bad description, a random pattern that something makes. It's not a man-made thing. I think it has to be kind of a machine molecule thing, like that kind of thing, not something that you do on purpose. It has to be accidental and random. And this pattern, Brownian movement, is what happened when Alice and Vic moved their refrigerator out of its cubby and the linoleum floor under it had this pattern on it. So they moved the refrigerator out to clean behind it or to exchange it or replace it or something like that. But when they moved the refrigerator out, that pattern was on the floor of all these weird random squares. And that is a Brownian movement because over the years that refrigerator buzzing and vibrating and walking just a little in all different directions made that pattern on the linoleum. Isn't that interesting? I just love this pattern because of that. I love all of these patterns. Oh, Fernanda Arsenal, good to see you in New Brunswick. Fern, good to see you. Welcome. Okay, good. So you heard some of what I was saying at least while I was shooting my mouth off. we have this giant stack of patterns, and I cannot wait. I'm super excited for tomorrow. Also a little nervous, not about the speaking, just about traffic and doing anything outside of the routine is a hair nerve wracking, isn't it? I mean, hopefully that's not just me. And I have something else interesting to tell you, and then I'm going to start the content for the day. And this was quite interesting for me. So I keep thinking about, and this is going to be a more universal and a less localized talk in the very near future. But for this moment, I have been thinking about this coming year, 2023. How can we plan more events regionally that I can be at, right? That are somewhere near where I live, that we can have a regular thing going, right? Not just for, I mean, everybody has Atha chapters near them, but for our group, because our group is really becoming really large and a little bit specific, right? We have a very nice group, and that's what I pride myself on. In fact, I'm going to make a detour and say I'm not going to say anything specific, but I got an email this week from one of my favorite people. And in another group, somebody had written something outrageously crappy in response to her post of her rug. And I could not believe it. And I have to say, I'm not tooting my horn because I'm hardly ever on our Facebook page, which is Rug Hooking and Punch Needle Club. But if that comment had popped up on our page and anybody had moderated it for one of the admins, Kirsten's an admin as well, and we have a third admin who helps. I think there's at least 3 admins on right now, but we are all looking when we can. Kirsten, I think the most. I think anybody would have removed this person without even a conversation, not even a courtesy conversation, not even a, let me get your point of view. Oh God, no, just you're done. So I take a lot of pride in the fact that our group seems so cohesive, so kind, so supportive. It's just sincerely nice people, and I want to get together in person more. So this is going somewhere. So I happened to one of my old friends, John, one of my old boyfriends years ago. He didn't really like me that much, and we were together for a couple of years, but he wasn't that into me, and so we went our separate ways. It was super heartbreaking, but we're friends again, and sometimes we chat and stuff on the video thing on Facebook. So I was chatting with him last night, and he was saying, "Oh, at his house, where I used to live too, he has this beautiful big barn that he built. And inside this barn, it sleeps 10 people. It has a 1,000-foot wraparound deck overlooking acres and acres of woods, acres. It is in East Hampton, Massachusetts, which is just north of Springfield by one town. It's a massive barn, and it happens to also have a stage in it because he's a musician and they get a lot of musicians coming through that has karaoke and is all set for people to play if they want to. It's a full kitchen. There's entertainment set. It's crazy. And let me show you some pictures of it, because the reason I'm telling you this is because it occurred to me in the middle of the night, oh my God, I've been looking for a place to have a hook in. We should do it there. It's called the Creation Station in this giant barn, because I'm thinking, I want to plan it for the spring, the first meeting, because I'm thinking we can have a giant hook-in. It can be a pajama party for 10 people who want to stay over. You can definitely stay over. And for people who wanted to, for example, camp, and I am not much of a camper, but I would do it in this case. I'd rather just have a little tent in the grounds. It could be a very fun day for us, but we could at least do a whole day hook in. We could get the karaoke machine going and have a little bit of fun with that. I mean, it's a beautiful spot, and I put some pictures into this tonight's. Oh, good evening in Scotland. Good to see. It's Bob the Puncher. Good to see you. Sharon in Vancouver. Great to see you. You were given a sewing machine and trying to figure out how to use it. Let's talk about that. Oh, wait a minute. I won't do that. My brassiere is showing. It's hot. It's either hot or you know what. Let me show you some pictures because I'm super excited about this, and I want to start planning a series of dates here so that we can know that we're going. And if you're coming to this part of the country, this is one corner of it. It's vast, and he's got pretty quilts and stuff all over the place, but it does sleep 10 people, and it's at the full kitchen. It's got a lot of stuff, and there's the stage. So I have every intention of going up there and singing or doing duets with whoever will go up there with me and having some fun. And the crazy thing is that in the backyard, because he has acres of land, he has been for the last 15 or more years, installing lights, like fairy lights. He's got tens of thousands, if not like more toward the hundreds of lights out there year round. And when we were on the phone last night, he said to his phone, this is completely beyond me, hey Alexa, turn on the Enchanted Forest. And outside his window, right, just through the phone, it looked like Disneyland lit up, like insane. It was insane. And he said, when you're there and when you're staying there, as soon as it hits dusk, Alexa, turn on the Enchanted Forest, and then we could all walk through the forest. It's like insane amount of walking trails that are all lit. It's not Christmas, it's just lit. So I thought that could be a really fun place for us in New England, right? It's right outside Springfield, Mass. And we'll plan ahead, and I'll put several dates on the calendar, and we can just have general hook-ins, and I will be at all of them. And we can fool around and do some other fun stuff there too. And for people who want to stay over, you can either stay in one of the beds. It is an open spot, or you can bring a little camping thing and camp out. It'll be super fun, or you can stay somewhere local. There's tons of local places too if you like more privacy. But it could be super fun. Oh, when you going there, which I could be there, I would have played. Can you make the trip from Scotland? Because I'm going to put a bunch of dates on the calendar. I would love it if you played. I would love it if you played the guitar. I think we could have a lot of fun. But it'll just be a spot for us in New England, in this part of New England that it's a good stepping off point for southern and northern New England. And I'm going to plant these dates out in the future, and I will be there. And I will always bring lots of supplies, lots of things. And when I'm there, I'm not hooking my own stuff. I'm either fooling around, singing and fooling around, or helping people with their projects, right? It's never like I'm teaching a class. It's like we're just hanging out and having a pajama party. So that's all coming up this year. I wish you could too, Lynn. I wish we could all be there together. But it's nice to feel like I finally found a place. It's not a library that has parking issues and space issues, and anybody who wants to come is going to be able to come. So we're going to figure that out. But it's going to be a lot of fun and a lot of dates. Again, in case you are vacationing around here. So I was happy to get that on the rails. It is brilliant. It's a beautiful spot, and I was there when he was building it because we were together then. And I remember one night, and though I'm stopping with the personal stories, but I was teaching stained glass at that time because I think I was working as a tour guide, but in the winter I didn't. And I sometimes worked at the local college, like teaching polymer clay or stained glass in those days, and it was stained glass. And I remember I left to go to teach, and by the time I came home, he had installed a working bathroom, like with walls and a toilet that flushed. That's just the kind of guy that he is. He can build anything. I was only gone for like 3 hours. I mean, it was incredible. That was the beginning of the barn. That was the beginning of the creation station. It's also an Airbnb, so I want to plug that for him too, because it's a giant spot for people who want to come, people who want to record music or practice music or anything like that. Especially good. There's like a jacuzzi there too, and all this stuff. And yeah, very good. Plugging it for him. Karen says, I'll be in Maryland the middle week of March for my daughter's wedding dress fitting. Could extend your time. Ooh, because that is a long way from Colorado. I was actually thinking of March. And I was only thinking of March because I wanted to do it a little bit later in the spring, but I'm thinking, are we even getting a winter this year? Like if I extend it till April and we have to wait all that time, what if it's really warm and tropical in March? Worrying. But if it is, I'm going to be sorry that we didn't plan something in March. So my initial thought when I spoke to him today was like, let's do something in March, and let's try to do something like every other month so that we can be here when people are here. Sarah in New Jersey, great to see you. Gail in Australia, good morning, my love. Hope you're having your coffee. Now let's talk about more universal things. Let's see, Lynn says, I went to a quilt in retreat and we all had matching pajamas with spools and needles and threads on them. Oh, how fun. They contracted with Target, I think, but it made the sleepover fun. That is so fun. I was thinking like definitely going through the evening for me, like having some drinks and, and fooling around on stage and stuff too, just doing fun stuff, making some food, ordering some food. And I thought it would be fun if I got in touch with some local food trucks to say like, because he has a huge yard and a huge driveway, could some local food trucks come and stop outside and park so that we have a few, 3 or 4 little food trucks to choose like dinners and stuff. It could be very fun. And I'm just going to say, I want to try to plan stuff like this all over because I did notice Jay's post, right? My friend Jay's post in our group. And like something like 700 or 800 people responded from where they were regionally in the US and in Canada, I think. And it was a lot. So we are thinking about a way to create a more structured system of regionally not appointing, but hoping that people will step forward to organize things in different places. And I will help you just so we can all find each other and get together. For those of you that aren't in Gales, or you're not near Gales, or you don't want to, or you also want a second thing, we are planning this actively right now. So just know that that is in the pipeline. Melanie says, I've been telling my husband I'll go back east for antiquing and a rug hooking tour. Let's do it. Let's do it. There's so much antiquing around here too. It's crazy, as you know, right, Melanie? And Judy says, here in Indiana, it often seems like we're not going to get a winter. Then March tricks us. Yeah, I was wondering that too. I was wondering that too. I just don't have any recollection of past years. I always feel like a cat coming out of the litter box as soon as we get to like February. And I just feel like the weather improves, but I'm not sure. I think no matter what I choose, right, it's going to have the possibility of being bad weather. So might as well choose March and get started with get-togethers, and maybe we can theme each get-together. And certainly we will record and run a live show, absolutely, for those of you who aren't here. So we'll figure all that out. But I want to be sure that it's accessible, the fun is accessible to everybody, and that you're not missing anything. We will run an extra long, crazy live show all day long. It can be like a stupid, what was that concert in the 80s that was like Woodstock? Like a Band-Aid. It just goes on for, not Band-Aid, you know what I mean, Live Aid. It just goes on for days, right? It just goes, we'll see what happens. Judy, we get that in February in Washington. It's a good idea. Let's see. We'll get everybody going and make sure that everybody who wants to can connect and find buddies in 2023. Newest issue of Atha. Have you gotten it yet? My friend Linda Ann said it came early to Canada. This is issue number 259 for. This is a bi-monthly magazine. If you don't know, Atha is the Association of Traditional Rug Hooking Artists, and they put out a beautiful magazine, an actual physical magazine, right? And they do have the chapters all over the country, and we'll talk about that as we go through the magazine. Judy says, oh, that would be great, friend, for those who would. I hope so. I hope so. And Bob says, there's a new Paisley this year being released. If I can film it for you, why can't I read with my glasses on? Being released. If I can film it for you, I will send it. Oh, thank you. Reopens after revamp this year. All right, that'll be exciting. Oh, I hope you can. You got your finger on the pulse of the Paisleys, I'm sure. I've been to Paisley. Paisley's such a beautiful town. Okay, good. Caught up. Oh, it would be fun to sing together. I just love to sing. It'd be fun. We'll see what happens. We'll do it. We'll do it if we can. I'll be there. So this issue, I'm going to go over, so when I look at magazines like this with you, whether it's Rug Hooking Magazine or Atha Magazine, I look at the features and I talk about them, and I'm not showing you everything because I want to encourage you, if you're a rug hooker, even if you're a beginner or you do other arts or textiles, there really are only at this moment 2 publications that are for rug hookers, and they are Rug Hooking Magazine and Atha. And I hope they let you film too. Good advertising, if they do. I love both of them. And they're very different. And I realized while I was looking at this issue of Atha today, I realized that while I love both equally, right? I love them both equally. They are both chock full of good information, a lot of inspiration, right? Beautifully done, beautiful features, well worth the subscription money. But I did realize that Atha, because it's a chapter-driven organization, is very heavy on the people. And I don't know why I never thought of that in all of this time that we've been talking about Atha Magazine. I never thought of that, but it is very people-heavy. And that's what I really like about it. I like to see the faces of the people who do this with us. And once in a while, I recognize a name and I feel happy, like I can connect. Once you see someone's face, it changes everything. But it's a beautiful magazine, and I really enjoyed this issue. So I'm going to go through it with you. I have the slideshow ready. I'm going to go through it with you, and I have left a lot out. So this is like a disclaimer that I always do. The parts that I've left out, they aren't the parts that I did not like or that I did not think were worthy of mention. It's just I kind of went through it, and I took kind of a general interest survey based on things that we haven't talked about or looked at lately. So, and even within each feature, I leave out a lot of examples of people's work, and it's not because it's not all equally lovely and fantastic. It's just I move fast, right? So if I'm leaving out something of yours that's in Atha magazine, number one, send me a message so I can feature it on Monday. Okay? If you watch and you have something in here that I don't cover tonight, please let me know. I want to cover your stuff. This is our group, and if you are logged on, I didn't do it because I don't like your work. I don't omit anybody's work for that reason. I'm just always moving like an animal at top speed. So the first feature is called Buffalo Trace Rug Hookers at Elk Farm. And this is part of Atha region number 6. So one of the things that I love, here, let me get away from the enchanted forest. One of the things that I love, oh, wait a minute, sorry, is seeing the faces, right? So this is the Buffalo Trace Rug Hookers group, again, Atha region number 6 in Palmyra, Indiana. And they're Buffalo Trace, they're called, I'm going to be careful here, Pucky Huddlers. Pucky Huddlers. Help me with the definition of that. Does anybody, is that a real word or is that a place? Oh, Melanie says, I really like this issue. Lots of pictures, lots of names. Absolutely. I felt the same way. It's really chock full of pictures, this particular issue. So, for example, this feature is about this Atha group, chapter 6. I'm sorry, region 6. Every autumn, Alice Ann and her husband Jim have invited members of the Buffalo Trace Rug Hookers, BTRH, to their elk farm in a secluded area of southern Indiana. Isn't that's just like what we were just talking about? People getting together and having some fun together. After driving on a very scenic curvy highway, we arrived at the elk farm. To get into the farm, we stopped our cars at the entrance, unlocked the gate, drove through the gate, and we stopped to lock the gate again to keep the elk from wandering away. Really elk. The long driveway winds through many well-tended acres of grass and woods. We drove slowly as elk are often seen grazing near the driveway. So the article goes on. The article is written by Jean Geswein, Geswein. And you know, just like Melanie's saying, let me make sure this is like the spread for it. It's so this issue feels a lot like a scrapbook to me. There's so many great pictures. You see like the elk racks and everybody getting together and having a good time. What a great, idyllic, fun place to have a hook in and to get together. So it does have a real scrapbook quality. I'm seeing lots of pictures. I'm seeing lots of horsing around. There's an elk right in the picture there. Do you see that? Nice group of people. It looks like a lot of happy faces working on their projects. It's a nice introduction to this issue. The next feature I thought was very, very, very useful. I have to say this issue was very strong for me on useful tips and new ideas. So, for example, this next feature it's by Martha Lowry of Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. And this is the Oklahoma Scissortail chapter, also Atha region number 9. And this article is called Binding Rugs with Cotton Ticking. And you know what cotton ticking is. It's a specific fabric, right? It's mostly associated with bedding. And I'm going to show you what the feature looks like, right? Another one, like lots of photos. I'm going to show you more photos. So this article starts like this. And again, this is Martha Lowry. And she says, the first time I saw hooked rugs bound with cotton ticking was early in my rug hooking career. It's so funny. I haven't read this yet. And I was going to say, this reminds me of Polly Minnick. And guess what the next sentence is? Early in my rug hooking career, they were Polly Minnick's rugs. I mean, I really associate her because if you have any of Polly Minnick's books, which are fantastic, they're often I've reviewed, always a good review. I've covered them all on the show here on the Ribbon Candy Hooking channel. They're often a mix of rug hooking and quilting, right? Because her sister's a quilter. So very, very good books, often like a nautical theme, right? Very sort of Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket theme. Very, very good. Will the subscription information be included at the end of the live feed? Oh, that's a good idea. Can somebody add, if you are able to, some kind of link to the Atha subscription page for the magazine, not the chapters, but the magazine? That'd be super helpful. Thank you so much. I wish I would have put that into the body of the description. That would have been like smart, right? Sorry. They were Polly Minnick's rugs, and I was spellbound by them. I have all of her books, and I still love to flip through the pages and see those cheerful stripes peeking out from the edges of her rugs. Her technique seems to change a bit from book to book, but it always involves making a binding tape of ticking and sewing it onto the edges of the pattern before hooking it. That's the key, isn't it? Before hooking it, right? I tried this Pumpkins Night Out, so I'm going to show you some of the. So she's going to talk specifically about how to do that. I'm going to show you more pictures. I want to back up and say, now who was fooling around with the sewing machine? See, I'm struggling with the light in my face. Hold on, let me go up in the thread a little bit. Bob, was it you? Were you fooling around with the sewing machine? Oh no, it was Sharon. And then Bob chimed in about threading it. Well, threading it is such a nightmare. I mean, at this point, I really need to get another machine that self-threads. Do you know what I mean? It like shoots it through. Because even if I have my like 3.5s or 4 glasses on, I cannot get a thread through the eye of that needle. And it is one of those things that like tips my mood instantly. Um, Sharon, you were setting up your machine. It makes me think of that because we're talking about cotton ticking and sewing machines. Isn't it funny how different machines can be from one to the next? Super frustrating. Sharon, if you're having a problem with the machine that you could articulate, it might be that people go, "Oh, I had that same problem because I also have a brother or a whatever, you know." So feel free to put that in the thread. So she talks in this article about using the ticking, and yeah, this is a polyminic technique, and I'm glad I'm not going crazy. You know, polyminic rugs are very sort of, this is like an 80s term, but preppy, right? Like they do have that preppy look, like the stripies and the plaids and stuff. It is a bit nautical. Um, yeah, you know, that's a good point, Bob. There, almost every model of sewing machine has a YouTube video on threading the bobbin or threading the machine, the main thread. You know, different things about it that are jack trippers. So that's worth doing too. Interesting, interesting. Oh, Atha Rugs is on. Well, Atha Rugs, you are the perfect person to put the link. Put any links that you want up because it's an all Atha episode tonight. So talking about binding with ticking, right? She goes through and she's showing you a variety of pictures. And again, I'm not showing you all of the pictures because I want you to get this issue. It is well worth it. I want you to get the subscription. So she's talking about using quilting fabrics that may make the nice rug bindings for small wall hangings. And she's talking about different checks, different prints. Now, these really are, these look like polyminic colors to me as well. Very, very primary. But you know, particularly if you also quilt, that the sky's the limit, right? For ticking, not exactly the limit, but just using cotton fabric, whether it's ticking or not, for binding, this article is going to help you get there. So a very good how-to article, very, very inspiring. And the author, Martha Lowry, talks about Pumpkins Night Out. And I think that's the one there. Yep, the one on the far left, right? So these are in this picture, there are 3 little Halloween rugs, and you can see how she's handling the ticking on the 3 rugs. Like on 2 of them, the ticking is only seen on the back, right? She's wrapped it right around like a bias tape, like a cotton tape. But on the one with the scarecrow, it's wrapped around a little bit, right? Almost like it's whip stitched, but it's fabric. Isn't that going to be so much easier? She said, I tried this Pumpkin Nights Out and had trouble perfecting the technique. No matter how close to the binding tape I tried to hook, it always seemed to leave a row or 2 of bare linen showing. The corners were a bit laborious to hook also, but there's no arguing that Polly's rugs stand alone. Oh well, each to his own. So this article will go on in a very thorough, see if there's one more, Yep, this is still the ticking article, in a very thorough and comprehensive way to talk about your choices if you do want to try binding your rugs with cotton ticking. Choice number 1 is going to be with cording, right? So you see a little of it wrapped around. Choice number 2, no cording, right? You're not seeing it on the edges. It's just tucked under. And how to, so those are the 2 choices, with or without, showing or not showing. And then it goes into how to choose ticking, right? On this page, how to choose ticking. And a few more examples, including Martha's pattern called Winter Tree, right? And she's showing, there's a beautiful log cabin kind of sticking out from under there. The one on the bottom right is another of Martha's pattern that's called a Williamsburg sideboard with red and white ticking. You see that ticking on the bottom with a sort of statuette of the little Santa character. Beautiful kind of stenciled wallpapers or stenciled walls. Kind of quilt sawtooth design going around the edge, all hooked, right? And then that little peppermint ticking sticking out from underneath. So tempting. If you have not tried to finish a rug, because we always talk about finishing. I got 2 emails in the last 2 days. How do I finish my rugs? I hardly ever finish my rugs because I don't have the time. And I'm super lazy, right? It's not the part that I like doing the most. But when I do it, I often do used fabric. I'm not a huge fan of a whipped border for myself. And I sometimes do this just sewing straight under, right? Because I don't really put anything on the floor that I make. I don't make anything that large because of time. If you want to learn how to do the fabric stuff, whether it's ticking or not, you can use this article and it will be comprehensive. So super good how-to article. Very, very, very practical. And that's what I love about Atha. Again, seeing people's faces, seeing people having fun, seeing groups getting together, seeing that camaraderie, but also having peppered in all of these articles about practical things that you really need. And even if you are a seasoned rug hooker who's been doing this forever, it's still good to think about what your options are. Because sometimes you just forget and you turn into this like robotic maniac and you just do things the same way each time. It's good to be reminded that there are different ways to approach, isn't it? I always like to be reminded. I always like to find out that I'm wrong with something or say, well, that is a better way. You know, that's part of learning, isn't it? And these magazines are great for that. And then there's a great article, Atha Region 8, on setting up for the biennial, because that was a great event. I was not there, sadly. There's pages and pages of smiling faces and people putting up some of the rugs that we saw. We covered the biennial on this show. And this magazine also has lots of advertising, and that is a great thing too, because you can see whether nationally or locally who the different vendors are and whether they're to your taste, right? Everybody's different. Everybody's interested in different things. Oh God, it's hot. I might have to turn the heater off. So lots to look at, lots of eye candy in every issue. Now, hold on one second. I got to turn this heat off or I'm going to expire. I mean, it is just, this has got to be menopause, doesn't it? I mean, I am 50. It's time. All right, so this next article is called The Companion, and this is by Lee Williams Stigler of Oklahoma. Again, the Oklahoma Scissortail chapter. I love that name. Is scissortail like a plant or a bird or something like that? I feel like it might be something, right? Because it's such a cute word, and I don't know that word. So help me learn something. Sharon says, if you want to put a rug on the floor, will it protect it adequately? Ticking, I would say ticking does, because ticking is much thicker, right, than like quilting fabric. I would feel comfortable with a rug on the floor. This is my personal opinion, and feel free anybody else to chime in. But I'm just thinking about my sewing background too. I would be very comfortable with the cording option for putting the rug on the floor. Because when your foot or your shoe or the person who you told to take the shoes off at the door never does, this is going to protect the edge of the rug. Think about the rugs we looked at yesterday, right? Because I had troubles on Wednesday and we ran the show on Thursday. We looked at a bunch of antique rugs and remember how some of them were suffering terribly and tons of schnoodle noodles like falling off around the edges because the edges were threadbare at that point, and not protected at all. If you do something like this with ticking, because ticking is such a substantial fabric with a lot of integrity, it should protect them completely. I would feel very good about that. If you were just going for any cotton, I would just make sure that it was a thicker cotton. I'm not even sure I would feel good about like a Kona cotton long term. You can always replace it, right? Because remember, the way that Martha's describing the how-to of this, it's being sewn onto your backing before. And remember, I didn't read the whole article, right? This is like a cliffhanger, but she's saying she struggled with, when you sew that fabric on before you start hooking, she struggled with getting it close enough so that you did not see any rows or any gap, any little holiday before you got to the cord or the ticking. And she will tell you in this article how to overcome that. So, yeah. Oh, Donna, good to see you. Good to see you, my love. I'm happy that you're there. If you want to put, so yeah, Sharon, I would feel good about it. I personally would. And anybody else, if you want to chime in, please do. And if you want to contradict me, please do. Honestly, please do. Um, Bob, yes, I like the edge of the rug. I also like it bright so people don't. You know, it's true when it's a little bit bright on the edge, it is less likely that people would fall over it. You know, and falling over stuff is just. I used to think when I was younger, like, who falls on stuff? Like, who falls over stuff? I fall on everything these days. It's like things have changed. I'm just boobing it up all the time, tripping on everything. I tripped at an antique store the other day. I didn't see a step that had this giant fluorescent piece of tape on it. One step, you know, when you miss one step and you come down so heavy that you think you like dislocated your hip. It was one of those. Oh, it was one of those. It was funny. It wasn't funny. I was super angry, but I got over it. So, all right, let's see. So this was a super fun article. I really enjoyed it. And this next article. So we moved on to. Let me come back over here. This article is a super standout for me because this rug is insane. It's so good. The Companion by Lee William Stigler, Oklahoma. Is anybody going to tell me about Scissortail? Does anybody know about Scissortail? The Oklahoma Scissortail chapter. Tule is considered a companion rug to my Istanbul rug that was in Celebration 30. And this is being written by Lee. The Companion, and this is the name of this rug, seemed a very fitting title. I loved hooking both of these rugs because of their many unique, varied, and intricate motifs. Nancy Blood color planned both rugs. She used an all color plan so they would go together, but not be exactly the same. This was a difficult feat and a testament to Nancy's unique color planning expertise. So this rug is called Tule. And this, wait a minute, is this one Tule? I think this one is Tule. Hold on just a second while I'm reading down. Yep, I think so. Designed by it's 44 by 78, so it is a whopper. It is designed by Jane McGowan Flynn. It's on monk's cloth, which is always her backing of choice. It allows me to split the fibers and give more definition to complicated motifs. So I'm just going to come back to you for a minute. If you are a beginner, what she means is, and let me show you because I have monk's cloth right here. So for example, these are the patterns that I was just showing you. With linen, right, this is Michelle Micarelli's linen. It's not very hairy. It's not primitive. It's very, very soft. It's my favorite one, and it's the one that I stock. So with linen, it's a woven, just like monk's cloth. Any backing that we use is going to be a woven. It's a fairly loose one, more akin to burlap than to, for example, rug warp or monk's cloth. And it has the hole. You get the hole, the cross section where you pull the loop up. That's it. With monk's cloth, it's a little bit different because of the threads, the thready nature of it. If you don't, if you hook already, you already know this. But when you look at monk's cloth, every one of these sort little rows, right, little intersections, it's made up of more than one thread. So it's not just the hole. You can actually force your hook or your punch in between, right in the center of each thread, right? Because each thread is actually made up of more, the warp and the weft are made up of more than one thread. So you get lots of threads to choose from. And for that reason, particularly if you hook very narrow, like 3/4, sometimes these cross sections are too far apart, right? You need once in a while for definition to get your loop even closer together, and you want to go into the threads. So monk's cloth allows for that. Monk's cloth is also good for punching because sometimes when you punch, like I'm punching this right now, my Van Gogh, and you screw something up, right? You can, you screw it up, you pull it out, which I've done a lot of here, and sometimes the monk's cloth, it's 100% cotton, it gets a little bit slack and it loses its tautness because you've overworked it, right? You've worked it too hard. And sometimes then I take my punch needle and I go into the threads instead of into the holes, just because I want it to be a little bit tighter. So for that reason, I can see why she's saying for narrow cuts, monk's cloth is great for her. And for punchers, I think monk's cloth is great. I maintain that for me, punching with rug warp is even easier. But let's carry on with this without too many. Um, Lee uses number 3 cut. Yeah, she must. This is crazy, isn't it? I'm going to show you some detailed pictures too. It is absolutely so fine that it is crazy. I hope someday to be able to color plan as well. Sharon, you will. You absolutely will. And, the more, I'm going to stick to the program, I promise. The more I think about it and the more rugs I see, the less faith I have in color planning. And part of the reason I say that is because I went to art school like 5 times. And that's also a thing there. Through different periods of time, different color combinations are considered more desirable, more fashionable, in vogue. And for that reason, color planning is a moving target. And we can say things like there are principles like DLDB, dark light, dull bright, or consult your color wheel. You can always say that, but at the end of the day, my feeling is always that if it looks good to you and you love the way it looks and there's not issues with contrast where you're like, I can't see the face, then you're good. It might not be my color taste, but if it's your color taste, you're there, right? You're there. So the more time goes on, the more work I see and the more I teach, the more I feel that that's true. And for people who are very technical who want to talk about color planning, like from a fine art point of view, I'm always happy to do that too. But I do feel like there's more than wiggle room. There's like rolling around in your sleeping bag room as far as color planning goes. So my point is, Sharon, get in there and do it sooner rather than later. Trust yourself to make good decisions because you will make decisions based on your taste, and you are the only person who matters in this. So I love it for punch needle. Bob loves the monk's cloth for punch needle. Linda Ann, good to see you. I'm glad you made it. um, 3 color schemes, dark, middle, light, to almost all colors. I think it is even, Bob, I agree with that. I think it is even a little different with punch and tufting and latch and stuff because I think with rug hooking, particularly what Lee is doing here with the number 3s, like Amzi says, um, with punch, latch, tufting, those kinds of forms, you get less definition, right? Unless your piece is immense, you get a little bit less definition. It's not a bad thing. It's just the way that the tools work, even like the fine punch, right? The worsted weight punch. And for that reason, I think you have to be a little bit more careful about contrast. Whereas with this, right, this is an enormous rug that's hooked in 3s. There is a lot of room for shading and making fine little tweaks and changes. Let me show you some other. Judy says, I really like looking at color choices from different time periods in parts of the world. So many surprises. That is such a good point because sometimes you can go off on a bender. Like hardware stores often have books of paint where not just the color cards, not just the swatch chips, but sometimes you can, probably also Amazon has books of paint combinations and color combinations where they'll just show you a bunch of colors together. I have one that goes by year. It's the 20th century. And Mom, you gave it to me, I think, or I borrowed it and haven't given it back. It starts, I think, at like 1900 and it goes like to 2000, something like that. And it literally shows you for each year. It shows you, for example, like a poster that was popular, like a movie poster like Metropolis. And it'll show you all like grays and whites and neutrals. And then for another year, like 1945 or whatever, it'll show you a kitchen with like it'll pull a photo, an actual reference from that exact year, and the color combos it shows you like the Pantone colors, pulling the colors out of that one reference a year, right? So it's very subjective, but it's interesting because of course when you get to iconic eras like the 1960s with Summer of Love colors and all those bright neons, and then you come into the 70s and the Brady Bunch colors, it's very distinct and different, right? And the color palette completely changes. Going through the Art Deco years, it's very, very, very interesting. There's all kinds of references for looking at colors. And sometimes my best way for color planning is usually to just walk up the stairs and look at the pile of clothes I have of like my clothes and the kids' clothes, because sometimes I look at the pile and I go, and I did it the other day. I love the way Jocelyn's sweater looks with my scarf and my socks, right? And then I bring the socks, the scarf, and the leggings into work, and I try to dye those colors because I want it's exact, right? When you find something that really clicks and resonates, So you can color plan that way too. Like look at your laundry, right? Look at your neighbor's laundry if it's hanging out on the line. There's so many ways to color plan that would be so funny. That's something to think about, isn't it? Like how to find color plans. That's a good idea, isn't it? Bob says, I am a spray painter. Oh, are you? Are you? You spray paint like graffiti art or fine art? And do you do it with stencils, Bob? Like spray paint stencils and templates over each other, almost like theorem? There are over 50 different colors of white for Ford Focus. The one shade, the one shade. See, that's incredible that there would be that many. But of course, if you had a Ford Focus and you had a patch of the wrong color, it would drive you crazy, wouldn't it? Isn't that funny? It's infinite, isn't it? So, okay, so this one, Tule is considered. Okay, so this is Tule. So this is the companion to the one that was in celebration number 30. And again, this is Jane McGowan Flynn pattern. Let me come back to you here with this pattern. I'm going to show you some close-ups. I'm sorry my mouth ran for so long. It's on Mung's cloth, blah, blah, blah. The large peacocks on the ends of the rug were really fun to hook. They were such an important part of the rug. I tried to make the bird feathers as bright as those of a real peacock. The colors were almost iridescent and alive when I dyed the formulas into swatches over chartreuse, Christmas green, and turquoise wool. I think careful shading and placement of each color gave the feathers depth and made them look real. So let me show you some of the other pictures from this article. And I know that you'll go to your copy and read this article because there's a lot more to learn about the way that this was executed. So this is Addie Johnson poses with Lee Williams in front of Tule at Sauter Rug Hooking Week show, summer 2022. This past one, Addie is Lee's daughter. Oh, they are both such pretty women. And then we have this close up here. Oops, wait a minute. I locked it. That was an accident. So she was just talking about the peacock feathers. And I mean, look at that. Look at that. Remember, she just said she was trying with swatches to make the feathers be as real and as exciting as a real peacock's feathers. And I think she has definitely achieved that. For me, it's even more exciting. They are just glowing. And I think I have one more photo from this article here because talk about glowing. This is extraordinary. I love this kind of scroll adaptation. I love the kind of twisted rope center to it. And I love the color changing outline. These color, I mean, on the black background. I love a black background. This is just glowing. And yet you see the chartreuse, you see the different shades. When you enjoy dyeing and shading, you get these kinds of possibilities. It's a lot. Lynn says, yes, Karen, I agree. Colors and nature are amazing. Karen says, Mother Nature is the best color planner. Amen to that. That is true. That is true. So this article was just incredible. I mean, it was an astonishing rug, wasn't it? Let me see what is coming up next. Oh, Amzi. I know what's coming up next. Let me get there. So Amzi is on with us tonight. I think this is my favorite rug in this issue. Like, I opened this page and I just went, oh my God, you have got to be kidding me. It's so unexpected because it's purple, right? And purple is one of my favorite colors, if not my favorite. It's so unexpected. We're going to look at this a little bit closer up, but Amzi, I absolutely love. I love this rug. I love the color choices. I love what you wrote. I'm going to read part of it. So this is by Amzi Collins, who is on with us tonight, whose work I always love and admire. The article is called Old Roses. This is Amzi's in Atha region number 9. Is it Texas? Is that one Texas? Let me see. Houston Hookers. Houston Hookers. But you're in, is that Manny, Louisiana? The Houston Hookers. Old Roses, designed by Keith Kemmer, Kemmer, and hooked by Amzi. And this is 18 by 33. The backing is linen. And the teacher is Katie Hartner. And Amzi writes in this article, when I first saw this pattern on paper, I jumped at it. I had been looking around for a pattern with big, fat flowers to hook in a primitive style. If you're a beginner, primitive means in a wider cut. So the rug that we just saw, that Tule rug by Jane McGowan Flynn, that was a 3 cut. That is much, 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 much finer and more narrow than a primitive cut, which we usually think of as being an 8 or above, much wider strips, right? Oh, Lynn, we'll see you later. Say hello to your granddaughter. And Linda Ann says, I love playing with different colors and combinations. One thing I love about making rugs is that if I'm on the fence about a color, I try a little and I can rip it out if I don't like it. That is a great thing, isn't it? It's not like knitting where you have to cry yourself to sleep because you have to backtrack a ton and you just hate it, right? It is one of the great joys of this. I can't tell you, I mean, I haven't been working on this for more than 2 hours, but I have pulled out a lot because I keep putting in like bright yellows and bright orange, and then I'm thinking, yeah, it's not happening for me. And it's so easy to pull it out. This is being punched and partly hooked, but it's so easy to pull it out, and you don't feel sick about it, because just pulling out pieces here and there as you experiment. It's just a great craft for being able to back it up, like meat. I'm backing it up and I'm rethinking it. It's the perfect craft for that. So Amsi says you jumped on this pattern because you wanted to hook it primitive style. The first drawing of this pattern had 3 huge roses on it. I asked for the large size pattern, which was the 3 roses. When it came, it was only 2 roses. Katie thought no one would like the 3 roses because that would make the pattern too large. So I got the 2, and boy, am I glad. I received the pattern just before I was getting serious about packing up my house. As I have shared, I moved from my lifelong hometown to a lake house. How nice is that? City comes to the country. Previously, I had bought several types of purple wool from Katie. It looked so pretty together that I thought this wool would be perfect for the 2 roses. I looked around my wool stash and I found some different colors of sari, like the Indian silk, right? And sari balls, also some colorful yarn, and various pieces of other shades of purple to add into the mix. I also had many different shades of bright greens, green and purple together, right? That is the match made in heaven, right? That is the heavenly color marriage of all time, in my opinion. That really set off the purple wool. So the bright greens would set off the purple wool. Beautiful black background on this too. Let me come back instead of my face. Let's have this up. And have another picture to show you too. So I threw that into the batch too. Now I had my purple for the roses and my greens for the leaves and odds and ends for everything in between. I put it all in a bag and went to a hook-in. I am not happy with starting a rug at a hook-in because I don't have any idea what I'm going to do with the pattern. I don't have all my stuff on hand to dig through. Now that is a true sentiment, isn't it? You live in Many, Louisiana. Okay, great. Thank you, Amzi. I know not having your stuff is like detrimental, isn't it? You feel a bit naked. It's like that dream of going out in the world and you don't have your underpants on or something like that. It doesn't feel quite right. So I get what you mean completely. And you go on to say most of my rugs are not really thought out to the point that I can have everything I need on hand. At home, I can just jump up and dig in. So you're at this hooking, and that is a tough start. You said, I have every intention of hooking these roses in a primitive style, but I really had no idea how to do that. I looked at photographs of other rugs in this style, and I thought it would be so simple. Just go round and round with your wool. Ha! I am a traditional hooker, and it is very hard for me to change much. I had barely gotten started when I had to put the rug away after a second hook-in. I had too much to do with the move. Oh, this sounds stressful. Finally, after several months, I was able to get started again. These roses took over my eyes, hands, and everything I know about colors. They were not turning out in the primitive style. They would not be primitive. They would be the way I hook flowers, with every piece of poison I can find, mixed media, here I come. I did have a few suggestions along the way. Did you know that purple and orange complement each other, along with lime green? It was suggested that I try to use some paisley. Paisley? What? What? In this? I bought a piece of paisley from Cynthia Norwood. You know, she is the queen of paisley. Lo and behold, the paisley had a lot of orange in it. I cut it by hand in most places and folded it over and hooked it into the leaf stems and other places, and the orange pop was perfect. I'm not going to read the whole article for the same reason. I want you to read it from your copy, but there's a lot of good information here, Amzi. In this piece, I'm going to go to the next slide, which is a close-up, but I have to say, these roses really glow, really glow. I love the black background. I love the unevenness. of the background. I love, you can see like the mottling, right? It's not just solid, dense black. I love the way the roses look. I love the way the leaves look. I love how at the beginning of each leaf, at the stem side, it's a little bit darker with purple, right? It's more purpley. Let's look at the close-up. It's just amazing. These color changes, knowing that there's orange in there that is from a paisley shawl. You know, the oranges that we see in paisley shawls are usually like tomato red colors, and then sometimes going toward orange and saffron or going the other way toward russet and brown. These are brighter, and I can see why these appealed, because once you locked in the purple, you just knew that the lime and the orange were going to be the poison, the pop, the opposite on the color wheel. And with a limited color palette, because it really is black, purple, and green, you did magic with the lime and with the oranges, and in this case, paisley. Atha says, I've seen so many red and pink roses. This is really fun. I completely agree. And you know, I love everything. I like everything that I see is inspiring and has something special about it. But when I saw this, I got like that heart-stopping feeling, because I thought, oh, unexpected, really unexpected. It has that look of like a Victorian painting, right, or postcard, but never the purple, never the purple. So this to me was really, really exciting. See, this is just an out of the park hit. I absolutely love it. I also love how in the article you put some real leaves in here, right? Like showing us color inspiration. It's so, in what Karen just said, pulling from nature. Mother Nature is the best color planner. It's so interesting to look at the photo of the real leaves, because it's remarkable how light some of the lights are and how intense some of the limes are. So great inspiration in just looking at leaves and then going to execute the piece itself. I am curious also about what the cut is. Um, because you said it didn't turn out to be primitive, but it doesn't look like a small cut to me. Although it is a smaller piece, maybe it is. So we'll wait and see what Amzi says. It's just a beautiful piece. It's just beautiful. Well done. I love it. And the next feature in this month, let me just wet my whistle a little bit. That is just awful. It really is awful. Homes. So this feature is called Homes. It's by Deborah K. Johnson. She's in Germany. She doesn't sound German. I bet she's not German, but she's in Germany, so that's exciting. So this was a beautiful page too. Let me show you a couple of the rugs featured on under this feature, which is called again Homes by Deborah K. Johnson, and it looks like this. Oops, wait a minute. Nope, it looks like this. This is a lovely piece. So here's an old salt box house with willow trees that I hooked in 2001. The grass, tree leaves, tree trunks, and background are all hand dyed. The rest of the rug used as is wools. The border is a plaid that I bought off the bolt at a wool fabric store in Rochester, Minnesota, while I was assisting in the recuperation of a very dear family member at the Mayo Clinic. The entire rug was hooked from January 15th to about February 27th. It's hooked in a number 8 cut overall. So this is a primitive rug. This is a lovely rug. I really love this kind of marble cake background to it, and you have to love the willow trees. My favorite. Beautiful salt box house, has that nice historic feel. I love the movement of the willows with kind of pom-pom sort of buds on them representing all of those leaves. Amzi, so you did number 8. So that is a primitive cut. So when you're saying they didn't want to be primitive, it was because you wanted to put all the details and all the colors in to shadow them out still. Is that what you meant? Because an 8 is a wider cut, and you did execute it really well. It looked like a wider cut. I hope I showed really close up what this looks like. Come in a little bit here. Oh, I can see the paisley really good right there. God, it's good. It's like deliciously good. That's the word that pops into mind when I look at that, is deliciously good. And also the salt box. I mean, I love a good salt box. This reminds me of New England and it's Minnesota. But absolutely beautiful, and beautiful black border on it too, isn't it? Very organic, very filigree vine going around the border. Really, really pretty. I like how the shapes on the border kind of mimic the leaves that are used like sort of representationally on the willow tree, because you could never. Oh, Tanya, good to see you. You lost. Oh, that's okay. You're putting away the Christmas decorations. Well, I'm glad that you're there. Gail asks, are roses hard to hook? Amzi, I'm going to leave that question to you because I consider you the rose expert after what we've seen. So I'm going to leave that. I'm going to leave that for Amzi to answer because, yeah, I've hooked roses not nearly as well as that. So I don't have anything to say on that subject. I defer. Um, so I love this piece. I love this piece, and I love the directional hooking. The door is kind of top to bottom, and the rest of the house is side to side, and the background is like marble cake. The grass is horizontal. It's a lot of thoughtful directional hooking, and I think that's part of the reason. And the very simple but interesting color palette makes this rug for me a really big success. So this is under the homes. This is the second rug that's under homes, and this is Atha region number 14. Again, Deborah Kate Johnson writing from Germany. And she says of this rug, this is the sampler rug with which I teach beginning rug hooking. A simple log cabin at night. I love these homes, and I have hooked many of them many times in different rugs. This sampler rug incorporates all the techniques needed to learn to hook. It's done in a number 8 cut. So this is interesting. This is like her teaching tool. This makes a lot of sense because she's got some handy things here, right? In the middle is the primary motif in vignette. It's like the log cabin house. And here's a great opportunity, right, in terms of her teaching, Deborah's teaching, to show directional hooking, little plume of smoke coming out, little thumbnail moon in the sky. Very primitive, very evocative, very atmospheric, very successful. Notice the way the ground is moving, almost like rolling waves, smart. And then the hit or miss underneath it, right? That's super handy for beginners to learn. Doing your signature or letters over on the left, right? That kind of text, that's something that bears learning, right? Everybody teaches it differently, I think. Doing the stars with the points on the corners. I'm wondering if she does the technique where she keeps the ends long underneath and she has that one loop sticking up, right? And then she works them down sideways like a V. Different ways you can do all these techniques, but these little motifs that she's choosing to frame out the sampler piece, the circles, the bullseye circles, the heart, right? It has roundness and it has that sharp bottom, the little sheep, the scallops. These are all smart things to use. Amzi says, I'm McGowan trained. Roses are a must do. So Amzi says, yes, shading is the trick. So I would agree with that. I want to come back. Let me come back to you for a second here. Come back to Amzi's old roses. I think the answer is yes, and shading is the trick. And I'm just going to say, with roses like this, big fat roses that look, I don't know anything about flowers, but to me they look like cabbage roses or something enormous. You really need to have, for this kind of definition, you really need to have distinction made between the different petals, right? And you know what a rose looks like. It's like, depending on how far it's unfolded or wilted, there are a lot of lines there. And I think what Amzi's saying, and I would agree, capturing those lines are what is going to define the shape of the petals, which will translate as a rose. Because if you're just taking a rose, Gail, I think you could easily do a rose shape and just do circles within circles, much simpler attack. But you will end up with something that looks more like a patula flower, like an anonymous kind of a flower, rather than distinctly a rose. And if that's good for you, and you're like, also love that, sounds perfect, then that's great. But I think Amzi's point is, if you want it to look like a rose, you do need to be intensely thoughtful about your lines and where the light and the dark fall. Otherwise, those petals will get lost in this odd-shaped circle thing. So I would agree. I've never had an easy time hooking flowers, and I've never hooked a flower that well, as I say. So, yeah, that one's a bit up for grabs. So, but I do like patula flowers too. So I tend to hook stuff in that more graphic style, and I'm not that good. So certainly not that good. Let me see. So Gail says thank you, and Atha says I'm not sure, but if I had to do a fine shaded rose, I would be in trouble. Me too. Me too. And Linda N says I'm not good at shading, but I'm okay with that. Haha, I definitely have a primitive style. And if you like your style and it is more primitive, then you're there, right? But if you're hooking and you're saying to yourself, on this project, I would like to see more shading. I would like to challenge myself to do a little bit more fine detail, right? For like more sort of intense coloration, more thoughtful coloring. Then, if you do want to challenge yourself, then you should be looking at technique and you should be learning more about technique and how to do these things that are a bit more complex, right? And sometimes off putting. Um, but I just want to reiterate the point that I always make, that one style is never better than another style. It's just what you want to do and what you mean to do, and getting you to the place where you can do the thing that you want to do. That is the end game, right? It is the end game. And everybody's taste is different. Thank God for that, right? You can take each petal on its own. Yeah, that would be a better way to attack, wouldn't it, Amzi? I mean, because it would be like anything, right? In bite-sized little chunks. It's just easier, less overwhelming than looking at the shape of it as one unit. If you look at each petal as an individual unit, if you feel like you have half a chance, right? Even if you're a complete beginner. Yeah. I'm gonna move on. Hang on a second. I do love the sampler and I do love this section called Home. That was super, super cute. I'm gonna speed along though because I am not making good um, you're inspired to get out your UFOs, your unfinished objects, huh? Out of the closet. Oh, it's a good time to do that, isn't it? I'm just flipping through because this is the next article that absolutely blew me away. I have to say, hats off, Atha, right? This article is a game changer. This is my favorite article. I think in this, not in terms of like rug hooking itself, but in terms of being different and having its place. This article, this is called Storage Wars, right? So it looks like this. And what this article is about is creating storage for your rug hooking stuff. Like this goes with the cotton ticking thing. This is very different and it's very helpful. And even if you are a seasoned rug hooker, this is something that you probably haven't seen or thought about. And that's why this is a great article. So let me bring you back here. I love this one. Let me bring you back here to this picture and let me get some other photos cued. So this is called Storage Wars, Hooker Style. And this is by Pam Sisk of Arvada, Colorado, Atha Region 10. And what is going on? I'm just going to read the beginning of the article to you. Pam says, "My stash is my gold mine. My husband's is cars. I have fabric and all of those tools, cutter, blades, hooks, scissors, frame. Well, you know. It is always challenging to find ways to store and display these precious tools in an orderly manner that actually allows me to find the things when they're needed. I shudder at the thought of placing a Townsend blade, and I have grieved for a lost hook which disappeared into a pile of wool. Thus, I am always looking for new and attractive ways to store my tools, and I've changed my storage system several times in the process. But now I think I'm satisfied. I've started using refurbished flatware boxes. These boxes can be painted. So these are silverware boxes. You see these at, hopefully you're in an area where you have yard sales or indoor flea markets or antique centers, Facebook Marketplace, eBay. You see these flatware, meaning silverware boxes everywhere, and they are cheap, right? Because nobody wants them anymore. Nobody plays with them anymore, for the most part. So this is what Pam is using. And she says these boxes can be painted, embellished, personalized. They can be stored on shelves in a decorative manner, easily seen, items quickly found, well, most of the time. I recently shared examples of these boxes with the Colorado Rug and Fiber Guild and hope that you find these ideas helpful with your storage wars. This is an adorable article. And she talks about, Goodwill, garage and estate sales, eBay, all good sources. And I'm just going to walk you through some of the photos that are in this article. You can see that she shows you in this article, she talks to you about refinishing them because these boxes often come quite dark, kind of mahogany color, and not always exactly what one would want. Let me see. I think hold on, let me show you this. Should have shown you this one first. So when you find flatware boxes, they look like this. And they're always loaded. You know, this is a moment in time, isn't it? They're always loaded. Oh, and Atha Ruggs wrote, let's remember that everyone who contributes to our magazine is doing so out of labor of love. After all, you are nonprofit. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love the variety of different styles from different people in different places, right? Everybody gets to contribute. Everybody gets to celebrate the work that they've done, the work their friends have done. We're celebrating it here now. But this is what I love about Atha Magazine, that it really is about people. Tana says repurpose silverware boxes, fantastic idea. Absolutely. And you know, some of them, like look on the left hand side, like that second one up, that one that's kind of like more of a mapley color, high gloss, high finish, right? A lot of veneer shine to it. You know, you're going to want to take a sander and stuff. Follow what it says in the article, but when you want to refinish them, you want to take some of that shine off, some of that lacquer and veneer off of it. And on the inside, you often get this wacky velvet, velveteen, satin, ruching, you know, that was meant to cushion each individual utensil. But those things you can rip right out, right? So this magazine walks you through all that with some great ideas, tools, right? The stencil brushes, stenciling, embellishments, pins, brass findings, hardware, tags, collage stuff you could attach, right? Like wooden appliques. All of this stuff is at your box craft store, Michael's, Joann's, whatever. The folk art craft paints, there's lots of brands of these. Americana is another good one. They're about $1 each. But you can see how when Pam is finished, she's got little draws for everything, right? And it's so good. I think I have one more. Maybe one more. Hang on. Yeah, I liked this one. Because on top, she's showing you her cutter blades, right? And on the bottom, she's showing you all her hooks. And it's perfect. It's perfect storage for that. So what a great idea. What a great article giving people ideas for blinging out, you know, these boxes, or really any boxes, but the flatware boxes, I agree with Pam, are really ideal. Really good idea. Very unusual article. Really, really good. Oh, and she's showing stuff like this, you know, because there's different stains. You don't have to paint like those acrylic paints from folk art or Americana or whatever, though, or Delta. Those are acrylic and those are opaque for the most part. But you can also get stains, right? After you sand and you're down to a good color surface, you can also get stains. So you can drag a little color across, but it's not so opaque. It's not so flat and matte, right? You get a little bit of a glow when you work with stains or chalk paints or whatever kind of paints you like, and they have them all at the craft store. It is a great idea. Yeah, Linda Ann, we were thinking the same thing. Chalk paint would also be great for painting those boxes. Chalk paint would be great. And then if you wanted to, if you were a real ding dong like me, and the anthem to your life was the U2 song, I still haven't found what I'm looking for, I would actually write on the cover of the chalkware box like hooks or cutter heads. I mean, that's just me, because that's how bad things are on my end. Judy says that wood stain called unicorn spit would be really fun. You are so right. And I noticed that they are selling unicorn spit at Joann's and Michael's now. Unicorn spit is a fabulous stain that comes in like a squirt bottle that has like a squirty top, like a hairdresser bottle. Different colors, and they are not opaque. They drag well together. They mix well together. They're super fluid. You can either get them in sets, but they mix very, very well together. And it is remarkable how the color drags into the color next to it. And it doesn't turn into a brown, muddy pig's breakfast. The colors are like magical. Unicorn spit. It's a great product. It really is. Sharon says, I've seen chalk paints in the dollar store. Yet there are a lot of brands that are popping up at dollar stores and all of the dollar stores. Because it's like it's surplus, right? They have so much of it in some cases that they're able to sell it for a really good price. Yeah, I like all of these ideas. With the unicorn spit, you can make it so colorful. You could always do a mix of both, right? Kinds of stains like the unicorn spit or the single, even less, the even more transparent stains, mixed with opaque stencils, like she was showing a stencil with a stencil brush, or the foam stamps. I think there's still foam stamps out there that you use the acrylic or the stain on a foam stamp, and then you do either a single pattern or an all-over pattern, or you cut your own stencil, maybe a stencil of a hook, right? Or punch needle, something neat. Your initials, right? Something like that. Your pet in silhouette. So many ideas. So we're moving on to another great article. Talk about great people, right? Great people, lots of faces. Our 10-year anniversary by Trisha Vendely of San Juan Capistrano, California, the Harbor Hookers chapter. So this year, 2022, members of the Harbor Hookers chapter celebrated 10 years of learning new skills, creating beautiful pieces, and enjoying the fellowship of like-minded women. Our founder, Lynn Schwartz, started her hooking career in Sacramento, California. After moving south to Dana Point, California, she began hooking with the Orange Coast Classics chapter, based in Anaheim, 30 miles away. After a time, Lynn decided it would be fun to meet at her house overlooking the beautiful ocean. So beautiful, beautiful gathering places, right? That's one of the themes of tonight's show. So she gathered up some of her friends and started a new chapter. They were 8 charter members, 7 of whom are still active. Over the years, a few more have come and gone, but we currently have 11 active members. What a great group. So that's not the whole article, but here you're seeing the group holding up their rugs for their 10th anniversary. I put a few of them in, and again, it's not that the ones I choose are my favorites. It's just I work fast, and I try to be random. So this is a lovely one by Sue Newton. Isn't it fun when everybody in a group hooks the same image, but hooks it in their own special way, right? So this is by Sue Newton. This one is by Barb Yergin, Yeargin. Super fun. And, oh, this one's very different. This is by Lynn Schwartz. So she's the founder of this group. 2022 she has on there. I wonder if I have any more. No, I'm moving to the next article. So that was a nice kind of check in with that chapter. There's a couple more features in between, but again, I'm skipping a lot. There is also a feature on Hooked on Fairy Tales, the Hooked on Fairy Tales rugs, rug show, Treasure Valley rug hookers, right? So this is the fairy tale show um, of Promogown certified teachers who are hooking different patterns put out by Honey Beehive in Manchester, Connecticut, that represent different fairy tales and nursery rhymes, things like that. So there's a feature on that too. The feature that I went to next is called Help Solve the Mystery of the Origins of a Door Prize. So let's look at this, because I haven't looked at it yet, and this one was appealing to me. So this image, the tag for it says, Currier and Ives American Homestead Winter. If any of you know who began the hooking on the rug shown above, please send the information to, and it has an email address. It's CD Boll, Boll, at msn.com. The rug was completed by Elaine Rahimbol of Mount Dora, Florida. And I'm sure I'm pronouncing this wrong. Elaine Rahimbol or Rajimbol, Rejimbal, of Mount Dora, Florida. I have heard that Mount Dora is an exquisite little town, super filled with charm and Victorian houses, right? Donna says, I love those boxes way better than my single file draw. I have a box, but it's full of that silver plated stuff that has been unused for 50 years. Well, maybe it's time for that stuff to go into a drawer safely, and you get the box. I love it too, Donna. I love it. And Linda Ann says, Donna, you can make wind chimes from, oh my gosh. Here we go. Here we go down the rabbit hole. You can make wind chimes from the silverware. Does anybody do that? I absolutely love that. I love wind chimes in general, but wind chimes from silverware, that is so magical. So listen, if you know who began the hooking of this, make sure that you get in touch with Elaine. So Elaine in Mount Dora is in the Citrus Bells chapter. Oh, God, that is so cute. Atha region number 5. And she said, I'm writing in the hopes that with your help, I just might be able to find some history on a partially completed hooked rug I won in a raffle in February at a hooking conference held by Searsport Rugs in Punta Gorda, Florida. Enclosed are 2 photos. I'm going to show you the other one too. One is a photo of the rug as I received it, and that's the one we're looking at. And the other is the finished framed piece. Sometimes one winning ticket will change your life. No, not the Florida lottery. In this case, the winning ticket was mine, and it was at a raffle at the Searsport Hook-In in 2022. One complimentary ticket, how will I spend it? Then I saw it, a Currier and Ives American Homestead Winter. It was on old burlap, and some of it had already been hooked. The house, the sleigh, and enough was done that I could see how beautiful it would be when it was finished. Absolutely, right? And I feel like looking at this piece, I would be very happy for the parts that were done, because it seems like the hardest parts are done. The silhouette of the tree is going to be fine, the distant silhouettes of the tree, just kind of copy the snow, right, for the rest of it. But the hard parts, the house and the figure in the doorway of the house, oh my word. Yeah, I'd be really happy if this was mine that those were done. And she said, I'm going to put my one ticket into that bucket for that door prize. And she said, then I attended a class on dyeing wool, and I didn't think about it until meeting up with my group later in the afternoon. They told me I'd won something. Could it be? I'm not the person who ever wins anything. I only put in one complimentary ticket. Yes, it was mine, and I was over the top. When I got home, the enormity of the project, the responsibility, is there such a thing as winner's remorse? I felt inadequate. My skills were not at that level, but I'd won, and it was mine, and I was not going to let down the gods of hooking who had selected me to win this rug. For help, I went to see my former hooking teacher, Pat Golfale, in Ocala. Help, help! She assured me, you can do it. Just take a little, like Amzi just said, just take a little piece at a time. Here's some wool, get going. She says, I loved it. With a number 3, number 4 cut, you are almost painting. They are that fine, aren't they? 4 different greens in a 2-inch evergreen tree. I used to primitive. I'm used to primitive hooking in 7 or 8 cuts. It was an adjustment for me, but I didn't want to disappoint the lady who had put so much effort and thought into it. And I kept it, and I kept at it. In fact, I couldn't leave it alone. It is done, and it looks lovely, and I'm so happy with the outcome. And that is not the end of the article, but let me show you. Elaine, I mean, what Elaine did was just over the top, crazy good. So this is a close up of it, filled in, right? Because you saw some of the snow was there, but not all. I mean, this is incredible. Look at the trees in the background. It's absolutely incredible. And look at the finished piece. I mean, I could not have done that. I could not have done that. Absolutely beautiful. I just noticed there's like some little birds or ducks or something over on the left, right in front of behind some kind of a trough. This is an extraordinary piece. And Elaine, if you are watching, this is incredible. You more than did justice to this. I think you gave this the sky, right? The sky has such a glow to it. Let's come back here, right? I mean, yeah, Sharon, wow, right? Absolutely beautiful. Kirsten, wow. I know. It's amazing. It's a beautiful piece. So let me see what my next thing was that we chose here. I'm keeping an eye on the time too. So I'm coming up to that feature. Atha's Educational Outreach Grant Report from the Tin Peddlers of Maine, Atha Region Number 1, Lori Troutman, and I even know her. So that's the next article that's in. That one isn't one that I picked out for tonight, not because it's not great. And then there's more about Atha's Educational Outreach by Carol Smith in Hanson, Massachusetts. More grant report, the Charles River, like Boston, rug chapter. So that article is next. And this article is the one that I'm pulling from next is called Celebration of Friends. And this is Atha Region Number 9. And this is by Judy Bruns of Brenham, Texas. Karen Kubekska of Chapel Hill, Texas. I'm sorry about that. I'm so bad with names. Margaret Caddy of Austin, Texas, and Judy May MaieWski of McDade, Texas. It's me. It's me. Are the authors of this article. And this is Celebration of Friends. So let me come back over here. I was reading about the wind chimes too. Let me lift you up a little bit. I don't know why this one slipped. Oh, come on, don't fool with me, program. Hang on. There we go. I just want to lift you up. So Celebration of Friends, Region Number 9. On August 27th, 2022, the Round Top Ruggers of Round Top, Texas celebrated 20 years of rug hooking with friends. Let's step back to 2020 during the COVID epidemic. It was at this time our group learned to use Zoom. I think that's the time everybody, I mean, I was no good at, I'm still no good at Zoom, but that was the time, wasn't it? It was like frying pan fire. It helped keep our group together, and we were still able to visit with friends and keep our rug cooking alive. During one of our Zoom sessions, the idea came up that the Round Top Ruggers would be 20 years old in 2 short years. A suggestion was made to plan a celebration. Margaret Caddy and Judy Bruns are the group's unofficial party challenge planners. We got together and began making plans to create a fun celebration and present the group with a challenge to honor the 20 wonderful years of friendship. We knew the challenge had to be special. A good place to start looking for ideas was in the past issues of Atha magazines. A great idea came in April-May of 2016 Atha issue. The article was written by Gail Dufresne entitled Block Party Sampler. I contacted Margaret to read the article and consider the idea. We both agreed it was our answer to a fantastic challenge rug. We created very simple rules for the challenge. The rug would be named Friendship Challenger. Friendship Sampler. The rug would contain 6 by 6 squares. Each participate member would create a design in the square that would be personal. And our goal was to be able to look at the square and know who designed it, right? Who designed each square. Karen Kubezka, I'm sorry about that again, sent out a notice to all the members. Margaret and I estimated 12 to 15 members would participate, and to our surprise, 22 members signed up to design a square. So I'm gonna stop there for the same reason, because I want you to look at the article yourself. But I pulled some examples of this beautiful friendship sampler to show you. Again, I'm just going to say it again. The ones I pulled are not the best ones or my favorite ones. They're just the ones that I pulled. So let's look at some of these friendship samplers. They are so lovely. And if you are a quilter, does this remind you of a Baltimore album quilt, right? Where each cell is its own design. It's exactly the same idea, isn't it? And the fact that this one is based on this group of friends is really quite beautiful. So let's look at some of the products of this challenge. This one is by Judy M. So these are the squares, each distinct square, and it seems to me like each pattern is the same. So you get the same squares in the same order, but I'm sure you're preempting what I'm about to say. Each one looks completely different. And look at the composition of each square, how different they are. You see the square that says Wool Boss? Do you see the square that says Don't Fret? You see the square that says Ruggers are the best people? The cat, the rose, the teapot, the maple leaf, the Pendutch heart, the peach, the sunflower, the basket, the tulip. There are so many beautiful motifs here. It's crazy. The boat at its rigging. So this one is by Judy M. Judy M. This one is by, Jacob just came in. This one is by Emily. And again, same composition, but very different. Very different. Look at the handling of each square. Completely different colors, completely different feel. Most of these have completely different borders on them, right? I think these are extraordinary. This one is by, and this one has rounded corners, which makes it really interesting, I think, too. This one is by, hang on, Charlotte. Wait a minute. Let me get, it just says Charlotte. So this one is by Charlotte, and she handled every single cell differently as well. And she did the rounded corners, and she did this kind of heather gray, which is very pretty. I do like the soft corners too. Very different. This is lovely. This is by Jane, and this is a monochromatic rug, right? Because we do not include the color white, the absence of color, when we talk about monochromatic or duochromatic rugs. This is a monochromatic rug. This is like a Delft blue rug. It's blue and it's white, and we've got shades of, right? But it is essentially one color, right? Because we don't count the white. Just beautiful. And this one has text on the border. A sampler of memories, friendship, 2022, right? This is so beautiful. Wouldn't you think it'd be so hard to execute a rug like this that is monochromatic? And I'm sure that it is. And if anybody wants to chime in on that subject, I don't think I've done a monochromatic rug yet. And I don't think I'm up for the challenge because I don't think I'm that good. But you can see, Bob was talking about contrast earlier and with punching and stuff. And with everything, right? The fewer colors you're working with, the more thoughtful you have to be about contrast. obviously, right? So interesting. This is really, really a beautiful one. So that was Jane's. And this one is Kristen. I love this one. I really love this one. I love the heathery texture to the dark gray. It's like a slate gray, isn't it? Did you notice that Kristen did Prati on the sunflower on this one? That's very different, isn't it? And look at the teapot. Look at the under the teapot. It's very different. One of the things I like about this composition is that that log cabin square that's at like 4 o'clock, right down on the right-hand side, that's up for grabs. I mean, they're all up for grabs, but that particular square is a great one to, I think, attack last, because it's a great opportunity to look at what colors you've already used and to decide, yeah, I'm missing these shades of blue. I'm going to do the log cabin in those shades of blue, right? So that makes a lot of sense. Oh, I did a few of these, but there's a lot more in this article. So this one is by Judy B. It's so pretty. This has a 1980s feel to me because it's got my favorite colors in it. It's got dusty rose and Wedgwood blue, right? That's what you need to make it an 80s piece in my mind. But really soft, really pretty. Do you know that with most of these, people are going about them by dropping a line, compartment lines, Brady Bunch, Hollywood Squares lines, right, to separate all of the cells. That's smart. I suppose you don't have to. I suppose you could do them in different colors, but it certainly furthers the composition when you have that distinction made between each cell. It separates them for your eye. This is a beautiful feature. And there's one more. And the reason I included this one, this is by Kathy, Friendship 2021. And you see, she really did handle some of these squares very differently. But the really noticeable thing that Kathy did differently than the other rugs was that she wiggled out those cell lines. So the grid that I was just talking about that establishes definition between the cells and separates them, she wiggled that out and made the line wavy throughout. And that gives it a much more comical, a much more informal look. Kirsten says monochromatic is a brilliant way to harmonize a rug. That is true. That is true. And that blue rug of Jane's was a great example of that. Linda Ann says, I love this idea. It really reminds me of our Van Gogh chair rugs and how we all did the same chair, but we did it differently. I love the sense of connection with everyone else who made one. That is real. I'm so glad that you said that. And I love you so much already. I just love you more now. That is the point, isn't it? It is the point. It's a challenge, right? And it's a challenge to do, this is my Van Gogh thing coming along. It's a challenge, but while you're working on something that a bunch of other buddies are working on at the same time, you do feel connected to them, even if you've never met them, and you will never meet them, God forbid, but you do feel connected to them. And that is part of why you would want to do this kind of project, isn't it? To make those connections, to hardwire yourself to our other friends out there. It's great to come together this way. And with the Atha chapters, of course, what they have in common is they are regionally and geographically together. So they are having all of these challenges, and they get to see each other and see each other's rugs, and they know each other in person. So that's a little bit different. We do the best we can with our challenges, right? And we are getting to know each other quite well. I'm really grateful for that. So let's see what I picked next here. Oh, there's another one. Oh my gosh. So this is by Tomi, Tomi. And I liked this one because it was so colorful. So colorful. I love that purple flower on the left over there. And, all of these have that rose, because of course we were talking about Amzi Collins's rose, like the old roses at the beginning, the purple roses with the green on the black. When the question came up, Gail said, do you have to be very good to hook a rose? And I'm not saying that these roses and these rugs are not good, but they are more primitive style. So this is a great example of what I was talking about and saying, if you are not feeling it, doing a very detailed, very shade-driven rose, then this rose at the bottom right, second in from the boat, this is more of a Padula-style rose, right? This is more of a generic flower, any flower, right? It's any flower, like one word. It's just round with a little bit of color in there. This is what you do with a rose when you prefer the primitive style, and that's what you mean to do, right? So that's another option. And as you can see, both options are viable and beautiful. The next feature is the Kansas City Biennial Rug Show Photos, and this is Atha region number 8. And I skipped over that only because we covered that quite a bit. And I wanted to come to this feature, which was written by Meredith Harris of Eastham, Massachusetts. That is Cape Cod. This is a cranberry chapter, and this is a chapter I know personally too, and I love this group. And when I'm on Cape Cod vacationing and stuff, I attend, and I attended this rug show. So this was the Cranberry Rug Hookers 30th anniversary rug challenge display. And if you remember this episode, they have happy birthday strung on it here. I covered this in Coffee Time. Over the course of a few episodes, I covered the Cranberry Hookers, the Cranberry Chapter rug show that was in June of this past year, 2022. So if you're interested in more on this rug show, or you're seeing things that you like, look back on the Ribbon Candy Hooking channel and look for Cranberry, and it will pull up the episodes that I did on this very show. So maybe some of these look familiar. I see a David Galshu on the top right here. I think this photo is reversed. I think it's the wrong way around, but picture it in reverse. That's a Galshu for sure. All of these rugs were in those episodes because it was like comprehensive. And some beautiful pictures. Again, this Atha rugs, right? I just want to shout out to anybody that was involved in putting this issue together. This issue, more than any past issue for me, has the feel of being a scrapbook. And that's what makes this publication feel like a family publication for me. And again, like suddenly I just feel like I look at this magazine because I want to see people and I want to see faces. And that is the real distinction between our two periodicals, Rug Cooking Magazine, which is fabulous, and Atha Magazine, which is fabulous. They are equally fabulous. They are both very different, and it's worth subscribing to both because they are so different. Now, this photo comes up from the next feature, which is called Central Ohio Rug Artists Are Up to the Challenge by Marie Schropp of Ames, Indiana. And this is the Central Ohio Rug Hooking Atha number 7 chapter. And this is the group, right? This is the group. And again, a similar challenge. I'm going to read you a little bit of the article, but they are hooking flowers, quite similar flowers. Although you can even see in this photo, there are some that are quite different, aren't there? Atha Rug says, with the excellent editing of Cheryl Ballenbach. The editing is beautiful, and the layout of the pages is beautiful. And I really, the ticking article in this issue and the boxes, the storage wars, over the top good, over the top good. This is a great issue. Atha Region number 7, the Central Ohio Rug Artists Guild has held a 2-day retreat in the fall for the past 6 years. A rug challenge has been presented at the retreat each year, and interested members complete their piece and bring it to the following year. All those in attendance vote for their favorite, and a People's Choice Prize is awarded to the winner. This year we had 13 wonderful entries. A variety of colors, techniques, and finishing were used on the pieces. Our winning entry was a 3D piece with cut loops by Susan Cantrell. So I'm going to show you that piece. They are all winners, right? They are obviously all winners. I'm not being patronizing. They're fabulous. This is the one by Suzanne Cantrell. And you can see, sometimes we think about Pradi, and this is Pradi, isn't it? In a way. Sometimes we think about Pradi, this is like a thistle, isn't it? Does this read to you as a thistle? I often think about Pradi, and shame on me, I often define Pradi as rug hooking with shaped pieces that you pull through to the surface. And because they're shaped, they can only be a certain kind of shape without becoming so anonymous and unrecognizable that it's a pointless exercise, right? So we tend to see Pradi most often when we're looking at like flowers and leaves, like most often in general. This was an example of looking at Pradi, and it's actually wool strips that are just left long on the surface. No, it's not Waldoboro because they're not shaped, and it's not densely hooked. It's hooked like you would hook any piece in a traditional rug hooking way, but leaving the ends of the thistle long and shaggy. And we get this Pradi effect, and it is exciting. It is something different. And I think maybe part of the reason it was the winner is because it is quite different. And again, it's just another reminder to us, no matter how long you've been hooking, we need to think about these different techniques, right? These different attacks, because our work can become stale if we never challenge ourselves or try new techniques. These are simple techniques that anybody could do. One of the other things about this particular piece by Suzanne Cantrell that I think is really different and interesting is if you notice the border, you see how with the stem, it breaks in the border. It comes up like a split in the border, right? So for example, most of them, it's a square border with very sort of deco design, straight, very symmetrical, heavy stem coming up in the center. With this one, she breaks the bottom border with that little sort of inlet, little divot taken out of it, and it creates a really strong motif. It creates a very strong border. Really interesting. Melanie says, I hooked this pattern in lavender and purples and green with an oatmeal colored background. I made a pillow out of it. This would make a great pillow, wouldn't it? It's an absolutely beautiful piece. Let's look at some of the other examples because yeah, they are all winners. They're all beautiful. This one is by Linda Sharpnack, Sharpnack. And this one too has that feeling to the stem, right? The border is solid, but the stem does go up in the design. Of course, with this one, the prestige with this one is that crazy ombre coloration going out on the petals, right? It still has a feel of a thistle shape, but without the shagginess. For me, a little bit different, very different feel. But the color shading on this one is phenomenal. Super interesting. And again, lesson learned with a small piece like this. These are 12 by 16. Oh, wait a minute. Are they 12 by, I think they are 12 by 16, maybe. I think so. It says 12 by 16 anyway. This one is reminding us that even if you are hooking primitive and you're hooking with a very limited color palette, if you have a few swatches that are ombre dyed, meaning dip dyed, meaning the color is dark on one end and light on the other, but we are talking about the same color. I'm second guessing myself now because the petals on the side look like they go brown to yellow. So that is dip dyed, not ombre dyed. Color shading going light to dark, regardless, is going to create this magical glow, and it's a great effect. And it's within everybody's wheelhouse, right? You just need the wool. Whether you want to dye it yourself or not, Jacob, we should do some dyeing ombre this month. Yeah. Um, but yeah, no, it's something we should do because it's a super easy technique. So in the old Pearl McGowan books and the old dyeing books and stuff like that, they talk about coat hanger dyeing when they're literally holding a coat hanger, like a wire coat hanger, with a swatch pinned to it, to the bottom of the coat hanger, and they're just lifting it up. Or if you can do like a pulley system with a rope or something on the top of your, if you have like a hood over your stove or something, you know, and they're just pulling it up slowly, right? So that it slowly fades to the next color. It's easy to do and it's a lot of fun. Karen says, Prati is so much fun. It's liberating. Karen, you do so well with Prati too. You do so. I love your lion. I love your lion. I saw the lion pop up on the feed right before the show. I didn't get a time to remark on it yet. I think I just gave it the heart. But that was beautiful. And then that had a significant amount of really well done Prati on it. Melanie says, I hooked, okay. And then Melanie says, actually, you punched it. I was wondering if anybody had punched this pattern because I was looking at the examples that are here, and the ones that I'm looking at, they don't look punched. So it's interesting that you punched it because why not? This is a perfect pattern to punch. It's very simple. It's very bold. It has very clear lines. Kirsten says, the loops in the background are divine. Oh, they are. They are. And this is let me come back to the image. This is whip stitched in like a russet, like an orangey russet, persimmon kind of a color. And, you know, I normally don't, for myself, I'm not a fan of whipping. But I have to say on this piece, it looks fantastic because the whipping almost looks a little bit shiny, right? In contrast to that kind of oatmeal-y border before it. It's a good color combination, and it really brings your eye out to the sides. And that is the same color, I think, that's in the center of the flower, which is always a good tack. Let's look at a couple of others, and I'm going to keep going. Oh, God, I always get so late, don't I? My mouth just runs and runs. So this one is by Eden Schmidt. Another beautiful example, limited color palette, very primitive. This one looks like just the ultimate sort of primitive to me. I love that little bar of ground on the bottom. I love that the border was omitted. That was a good personal design choice, right? I love the way that these petals start with those kinds of flares of white, right? Interesting. The way that the yellow is looped out on the two bottom petals is for me what makes this a primitive looking piece, right? This is not a piece that is shaded. This is a primitive piece. And when you make those distinct design choices in this manner, you have become primitive, truly primitive, right? So this is a 100% primitive piece. I absolutely love it. There is some great directional hooking in this. If you look from the leaves around, the hooking just goes right around the motif, which is the flower. Really, really lovely. And this is another lovely example. This one is by Marge Huftelin. A little bit of Prati on this one too, right? Those raised loops in the center. Um, what's the word for the center of a flower? It begins with a P, doesn't it? Like, um, ah, what is it? You know, like milliners used to put them on the hats. You know, they sold those little things that stuck out. What word am I thinking? You know what I mean? I don't want to say a bad word because I feel like it begins with PIS or something. Um, if you know, let us know, right? It's going to drive me nuts. I'm going to wake up at 3:15. But that's what it reminds. Stamen. It didn't begin with PIS at all. I'm sorry. It's stamen. STAMIN. Yeah, that was naughty. Or pistil. Okay, Judy. So maybe it's pistil. Maybe that's it. Okay, sorry. I've only had two sips of my drink so far. I love that 3D effect here. You know, the more I look at the pattern, the more I look at different interpretations of this pattern, I really like the stem. It reminds me of like a wine glass almost, right? And this isn't a cocktail night reference. It's just, isn't it interesting how it flutes out? And the amount of play that different people are having with this design. Love the colors on this too. Also, are you noticing in this piece that it is a black or dark gray background? There's lots of flares of like a dark blue or an iris color, like a nightshade color, like popping up in the background. Really like that. I really like the execution of the purple leaves. Lots of shades of purple, very primitive. Very primitive handling. This is not shading. This is graphic filling in the primitive style. And these beautiful green leaves. Amzi, right? The theme of the night tonight, purple flowers, lime green leaves, match made in heaven. And notice in the lime green leaves too, there is the presence of more of like Cayman blue, like turquoise blue with that lime green, which is interesting, right? Because it really flattens the green in those places. It brings your eye right there. I like the color choices in this one a lot. It's a really, really exceptional example. This is very different by Shirley Cloyd. Very different, much lighter background, still very primitive handling. This is almost a reversal of the colors that we've seen so far. I like the dit dots at the edge of the petals. And don't you love this border? I mean, I'm gonna pull this larger in a second so we can look at it more close up. I'm gonna do that right now. Let's look at it more close up. This has got to be not textured, but patterned wool, doesn't it? Because, yeah, it's got to be. There's so much black and white going on there. Also, look at the background, the white background, bringing in lots of browns, kind of sandalwood colors, greens, pistachio green, right, sage. Lots of colors in that what looks like at first glance like a white background. It's not at all, is it? It's loaded with color. Again, this piece is by Shirley Cloyd. This is another really beautiful piece. See, all of the features, I think, in this issue, there's so many more than I'm showing you. I didn't realize I had this many, but there's so many more. This is by Jan Brown. This is what I would call a duochromatic rug because we really are looking at green, and in the center that looks to me like a brown texture, right? So it could almost be defined as a monochromatic rug because brown is a neutral. But a lot of this mint green with pistachio, you don't really expect that because they're both cool blue greens, but when they're together, they are fighting with each other, and that fight creates drama. And drama is what you want in any art piece that you do. So this is it has a lot of outlining to it, doesn't it? We're looking at sort of a lot of, what's the word? The opposite of a cameo, right? Intaglio. Like when you're seeing the background through the shape, that dark green, it's a little bit different than the background, but the veins in the leaves and the beginnings of the petals almost has that intaglio look because it has more in common with that dark green background than it does with any other colors in this piece. Really, really lovely. Karen says stamens and pistils. So we were both right. I'm glad that I didn't say half of a bad word in vain. So this is the next article that I pulled out. This was from the Kansas City Biennial Rug Show, Atha region number 8. And all of the photographs on these pages are by Kathy Kovaric, Kovaric. And I just thought this was a lovely spread. I wanted you to be aware of this. This is another scrapbook feeling piece, just sort of a laundry list of different styles, perfect compositions, great examples of all kinds of hooking, from very realistic to very primitive, all super, super successful, and another lovely spread. And I think this is probably the same article, the Kansas City. Yep, this is the same article. So looking at a few more examples from that Kansas City biennial show. And of course, Atha hosts the biennial, right? It's an Atha event. So it is not, and you see the one on the bottom right-hand side, the abstract daisies, that is the cover for this month's Atha. This is hooked by Debbie Bryant of Overland Park, Kansas, designed by one of my favorite designers, Sharon Smith. Very Sharon Smith colors too, isn't it? Really lovely. I'll show you the cover again in a second. And all Sharon Smith designs are available through W. Cushing, right, in Maine. And they advertise throughout the magazine, so it's going to be easy to find them. Let me show you the cover of the magazine again. Sorry, I am a hot mess myself. Just ignore this and look at this prettiness right here. Really nice Sharon Stone. I guess it's time to log off if I'm talking crazy. Sharon Smith, and again, I just want to say, hooked by Debbie Bryant of Overland Park, Kansas. So wonderful issue of Atha Magazine, number 259, February, March. This is a bi-monthly publication. You must subscribe if you don't. It's so, I mean, it's one thing to look at it together like this. It's another thing to have it in your hand, have it on the bedside table, and to be able to go through it and think your thoughts, right? I'm just giving you my impressions as we fly through it. So many images in 2 hours. But, when you have it and you have the time to peruse and pore over it, you get all kinds of ideas and inspiration, and that's what these periodicals are great for. It's also important to support Atha, right? They are nonprofit. It is important to support them. We are a very small community compared to every other craft you can name. It is important to support each other in every way. Melanie says, I love this color scheme, green and mint and aqua, that last one, the last rug with the flower, right? That was really lovely. And this magazine, I also noticed I earmarked, I did a dog ear on this page. It said, this magazine's content is color coded. And I find that very helpful because, for example, they show you this, right? This is the way that it's color coded. And as you flip through it, you know that red means that you're reading and learning. You know that orange means it's community-based, community interest subjects. The yellow means it's a hooking story. It's something specific. The green is vendor's choice. So you're looking at different brands who sell patterns and materials and tools for rug hooking and punch needle. The indigo is like a teacher feature, and the biennial is like the grape purple, like grape jam purple, because we're looking forward already to the next biennial in 2 years, right? Because 2 years goes by like this, unfortunately. The days go by slow, the years go by fast, don't they? And the turquoise blue is a free pattern, and the fuchsia pink is education. So there's so much learning and there's so much sharing and community in this magazine. It's crazy. Great issue. Amzi, thank you. Thank you for letting me cover your old roses in here. They are absolutely beautiful. I absolutely love that rug. That's my favorite rug from this issue for sure. I love them all. I love them all. So I hope you all have, oh, thank you, Linda Ann. Thumbs up, share, like, subscribe, all that stuff so that other people can find the channel. Patreon members, huge shout out and thank you. Patreon newsletter went out at the beginning of the month with the pattern of the month, and all through the winter, as I say, I'll always give you a second free pattern. So that will be coming up maybe in a week or two when things quiet down a little bit with teaching and speaking and appearances and all that stuff. You will get another Patreon members free pattern, and I really appreciate your support. So we are running 3 live shows a week, unless my head is falling off by a thread, which sometimes it is. But this week we got 3 out, didn't we? And on Monday, I think we're probably going to return to, we're going to do a lot of dyeing and a lot of pre-recorded dye videos. Jacob, you know what I was thinking?
Yes.
I was thinking your dragon, hang on, don't mind my crutch. Your dragon right here, right, that he drew, I had started hooking it in the reds, and he preferred it in greens. And he's real persnickety about
That's not true, ladies and gentlemen.
He is real persnickety about what colors of green he wants. So I was thinking, Jacob, why don't we do a dye video, dyeing the colors the way that you want them for this dragon, right? So that will be me trying to custom dye the colors as he describes them. That could make a great dyeing video. We're doing some live dye videos with the rest of the month. This Alice Butler thing has just had me consumed, right? Everything is like all roads lead to tomorrow. But yeah, we have more dyeing videos coming up. But on Monday, I think we're going to return to the table, looking at that pile of antique rugs and going through them. We're going to take another whack at
That'll be
those.
fun.
We got a lot of good feedback on that episode, and we might as well return to them because there's about 50 more sitting on the table waiting for us. Happy weekend, everybody. Have a great weekend. If you are in southern New England, make your way to the Little Rhodey Thrummers meeting at the Middletown, I think it's the Middletown Library, just check, because I'll be there tomorrow morning starting at 10:30 to do the presentation on Alice Butler and Vic Hugo and their phenomenal life together, mother and son, making these rugs. It's a beautiful, I hope, presentation. And we have 23 rugs to bring, a lot of different patterns. But they are also available to you at Ribbon Candy Hooking if you are not able to make it. And that link is in the description to this video. Linda says hi to you, Jacob.
Hi.
Thank you. You are so welcome. Thanks so much. From Bermuda, Tanya, good to see you. Stay warm. Stay warm, everybody. Happy weekend. We will see you on Monday for coffee time at our usual time, noon Eastern Standard Time. Have a great weekend.